I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Ginni Saraswati. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm going really well, Angel. I'm so excited to be chatting to you, and it's nice to be on the other side of the microphone because I feel like I can just put my feet up. So if I fall asleep, you might have to poke me so I'm not getting too relaxed.
Yeah, I'll do the virtual poke. There we go. There we go. Hey, well, please do tell us, Ginni, what part of the world are you in right now?
So currently, Angel, I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Lovely sunny Melbourne. We're heading into spring, but it's one of those cities where there's 4 seasons in one day. So I'm sitting here in my car. I've got my hoodie in case it rains, which there is a possibility because it is Melbourne. So yeah, I'm coming to you from the land down under.
Well, that's great. So you're actually my future. It's like daytime where you are, isn't it?
Exactly. I like to tell people when I'm talking to them from the future that the future is looking good, that there's nothing to fear at all.
Sweet. Love it. Well, Ginni, please do tell us which of your talents is responsible for us connecting.
Well, I think it's actually my talent for talking. I mean, when you reached out to me on LinkedIn and offered me an opportunity to talk for potentially 12 minutes, I was sold. It kind of sucks for you though, because you're trapped for 12 minutes, but I think that's a talent that's responsible for this conversation right now.
No, this is amazing. I'm definitely not trapped. If I get more than 12, I'm very lucky because you are amazing and what you do is amazing as well. So tell us about the podcast.
So the Ginni Show is a podcast which is kind of like an autobiographical, let me say that word properly, autobiographical narrative of my life, of how I grew up in Australia, being an immigrant child from Sri Lanka and my family growing up here. So it's kind of a narrative of my childhood, but also how I adjusted to Western life and how even though we're from different parts of the world, there's so many themes that connect us all that we all go through as humans. So, that's essentially what the podcast is about. And it's also just an avenue to poke fun at my family. That's all.
Well, I think what I really loved about the podcast were the questions that were close-ended. So, like, you were jumping, like the conversation I heard, you were interviewing this guy called LJ, right? And so that was the first time I heard the question. Do you carry your cell phone in the toilet, right?
Yes. It's an important question to ask, Angel.
Exactly.
Because it's quite a thing.
It is. Yeah, just before coming on to this conversation, I needed to listen. I said, hey, because I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, right? So I was like, hey, I need to refresh my memory with Ginni's podcast, right? And I was in the bathroom, right? And you asked the question again. I was like, right, that's it.
Well, I know I'm doing my job if people are thinking of me when they're in the toilet. I mean, that should be on a trophy somewhere, I think.
Yeah, this is wonderful. It's wonderful. I love what you're doing. Love the uniqueness. Who did you learn this skill from?
I think I grew up as a really quiet kid. When my family migrated to Australia, I remember in my first couple of years of preschool, I didn't actually talk because I just felt so different to everyone because at that time, Australia was going through an immigration boom and, different cultures were migrating to Australia. So I was probably one of the only brown people around. So I remember one of the kids asked me, why are you brown? I'm like, oh, okay, I must have a thing going on. And if Beyonce was around back then, it would have helped, but she obviously came 10, 20 years later. But I think where I learned talking from was when I met my best friend in 8th grade. She's still to this day my best friend. And I think I became quite talkative because she was the first person who also was very talkative, but she also made me feel okay to be me. So I kind of really eased into myself.
That's intriguing. So there have been the challenges. Why will you continue to repeat this skill? The skill of being who you are.
Well, firstly, I can't help it. I love talking. It's kind of like my oxygen. But also, I just love conversations with different people and connecting with different people because I think you learn so much about life and yourself. And I'm always for looking at a different perspective of looking at things. And I think there's a quote Oprah has that says, I never thought about it that way. And I feel talking and a conversation is a gateway to that.
Yeah, me too. Love how you said that. Yeah. Well, where's the best place for us to connect with you? Even the podcast, even with what you do.
So you can connect with me on Instagram at The Ginni Show, or you can connect with me at Twitter, The Ginni Show, Facebook at The Ginni Show. As you can see, I'm quite narcissistic with my handles. So I'm always up for a chat. So if you want to connect with me, and you can always shoot me an email, it's ginni@ginni.com.au. So I'd love to talk to you.
And Ginni is Ginni. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to spell. Well, Ginni, please tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
One of the things I've done pretty consistently is travel. Every year I've always booked a ticket and gone somewhere. The past few years it's always been to New York, because it's a huge city, and I've never actually finished seeing everything in that city. But I always like to take a trip someplace, so you can take time out to marvel at something or at some place. You can kind of stop and really be present. And I think being present is the real only way to anchor gratitude quickly, because you're so present in the moment and you always feel gratitude quite quickly and easily. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get to that place of gratitude, but I think when you're present, it comes pretty easily.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. So why would you suggest to someone that's listening that they do something just like that by traveling more often?
I think adventures are the best way to learn. It actually helps you see and experience a world outside of the one that you spend most of your time in. And you get to see how other people live. You get to see their struggles, their joys, what their daily routine can look like. And it gives you a perspective on your life and how you live and how you could think about things a different way or do things a different way. I think learning from humans and experiences, I think that's one of the most invaluable lessons we ever get to share and experience.
Yeah, and that I agree with. Well, amazing audience, we are live with Ginni Saraswati. You could definitely check her out at the Ginni Show. Pretty amazing questions, pretty amazing conversation going on there. Ginni, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Ginni, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Oh, I would have to say, I remember when we landed in Australia, we went straight to my auntie's house. She's my mother's eldest sibling. And she was wearing green overalls and a black T-shirt. And I asked her, when are we going home? And she said to me, well, this is home now. And I just remember feeling really confused as to why we left tropical Sri Lanka and now we were in cold Melbourne. I was like, what is going on here? So that feeling was really very prominent for me, that question mark.
Intriguing. So I got lost in the memory. Did you say how old you were?
I was nearly 3 years old.
Wow. So why do you think this memory is so clear?
I think other than my auntie's questionable fashion sense, that was seared into my memory, because not many people can rock out bright green overalls and a black T-shirt, but it was, again, the 80s. But I think it was something in me that was probably sparked. I've always, as I love talking, I love asking questions. And I think that was probably the first moment in my awareness and in my memory collection that I actually asked a question going, why is this happening? And I think that's probably a vivid moment in my life that's kind of shaped where my career's gone. So I think that's exactly why, Angel.
Yeah. Well, I think you definitely connected the dots. I am not sure why I'm needed in this conversation anymore.
No, it truly does help to have a sounding board, Angel.
Okay, then. I appreciate that. Well, hey, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh, Spice Up Your Life by the Spice Girls. Spice World was my first video, so I love that song.
Yeah, it's amazing how it connects to me, right? Like, I mean, Spice, Mocha coffee, it's just intriguing, right?
Exactly. And I love the fact that you know what coffee I drink. This is fantastic.
Yes, she loves coffee. Amazing audience. She loves it. Well, this is great. Well, Ginni, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ginni, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes, my little niece. She's 9 years old.
Are you married?
Not yet.
Do you have children?
No, not yet.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Absolutely.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, I probably get 3 hours a week if I'm lucky.
All right, all right. What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I would have to say it's probably a little bit more than 8. I'm trying to work on that.
All right, all right. Ginni, after having 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I came up with a workbook. The name of it is called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. The idea is as you answer these questions, you're able to identify your own unique real statement, your mission. I am intrigued to know if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Ginni Saraswati. What would you say that is?
I love laughing, and I'll find something to laugh at or laugh with every day, even if it's at my own expense.
Love it, love it, love it. Hey, Ginni, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me, Angel, and amazing audience. I've loved being in your company, and I hope we can all connect again in the future.
Yeah, love it. Most definitely. Ginni Saraswati, again, great pleasure, super great pleasure. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Fantastic.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.